Before I introduce our speaker, I want to share a few opening remarks. This evening, I'd like to offer a few thoughts on the importance of those serving our communities in the legal field. Now, I have to give a disclaimer here. I am married to an attorney, so I have to give some of these remarks. Otherwise, I'd get in trouble with my wife when I get home this evening. But Albert Einstein once wrote, "To make a goal of comfort or happiness has never appealed to me. A system of ethics built on this basis would be sufficient only for a herd of cattle." Well, we are not cattle. While we are often inclined to our comfort or happiness as part of our goals, our legal system and those who work within it encourage us all to uphold something that is far bigger than ourselves. Which leads me to my first point. We are not Vulcans. I'm a big Trekkie. In fact, I created my new real estate investment fund. It's called the Enterprise Fund, so forgive me, I'm a little geeky that way, but just we'll go with it. But we're not Vulcans. Just last week, we acknowledged the 15-year mark after the attacks on September 11th, 2001. We all remember where we were on that fateful day. It was an emotional day of recognition, and it brought forth a multitude of voices, one being Special Master Kenneth Feinberg, who was appointed the impossible task of assessing the long-term value of a lost human life. Think about that. Trying to come up with the value of a lost human life. Maybe your daughter, your son, your husband, your uncle. How do you put a value on a lost human life in such a tragedy? Congress created the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund to compensate surviving victims and families still reeling from that loss. Feinberg was appointed to figure out the monetary value of these victims, from the waiters at the Windows on the World restaurant to the Wall Street traders. He spoke in NPR's All Things Considered this year and recounted the lessons he learned. I don't know if anybody got a chance to listen to that. As a leader in the legal landscape, one must balance with utmost discernment and stability both a rational, analytical outlook of a situation as well as empathize with the human realities of catastrophes, personal or global. Feinberg's assignment was massive and, in his words, absolutely debilitating. He noted, quote, "You can't hide. If you hide, you're defeating the congressional purpose. The only way you do that is by walking into the lion's den, meeting the families, telling them what you can do and what you can't do under the law. You brace yourself." And that's what he did for a grueling 33 months. Think about that, 33 months of going in and meeting with those different families. We are not Vulcans, the emotionless species which Spock from Star Trek belongs. Indeed, we can't hide from reality, from the difficult balance between rationality and emotion. Legal leaders like Feinberg and our guest speaker tonight know this in a very deep and personal way. That is a fundamental part of a career in law, but it is also a crucial part of participating in this thing called community. Leaning on one another, knowing one another, and keeping another accountable with compassion. So why is enforcing the law a selfless matter? Lawyers and politicians get a bad rap. And we've got some in here this evening, Tom and others, and we'll hug it out later if we need to. We're here for you. There's a therapy session afterwards. 21 steps. We'll get through 5 tonight. It'll be great. They are often the butt of our jokes, as I just did. All in good jest, though. You're a good friend. And often for good reason. Their position makes them highly susceptible to public failure. And the bad eggs are often louder than the good ones. You thought I was going to say something else for why they were the butt of jokes. But they are very, very necessary. The truth is, good lawyers and politicians commit their lives, their emotional energy, and their time to upholding justice and ethics on a scale some of us can't even imagine. They are the ones who value the pursuit of a strong community to put themselves in uncomfortable positions over and over for the sake of others. It is their job and calling to look out for the interests that may not be their own. Most of the time, they work tireless hours to benefit people that they have met or may never meet at all. While it helps us to have a formal legal education, I think this is something our community needs from each and every one of us. We are rapidly becoming a society of recluses, with our self-checkouts, our bystanders effect, and our automatic everything. There is less reliance on one another and more reliance on machines. A blessing and a curse, all in the same. But there is nothing quite like a community of people that shows up in times of need, that can stick up for one another in law and in life. A few years before 9/11, on July 27th, 1996, seems like a long time ago when I'm about ready to share with you, a domestic terrorist detonated pipe bombs in Olympic Park during the Centennial Olympic Games in Atlanta. Do you remember that? It's almost hard to kind of remember some of these things because so much happens. One innocent spectator was killed, and over 100 more were wounded in the attack. At the beginning of her career, a young attorney acted as the primary liaison with the victims and their families, demonstrating remarkable compassion and resolve to fight for justice. I've heard that she grew up watching her father use his influence as a lawyer to lead their small Missouri community. She has always understood service and leadership as deeply intertwined. That woman is our Attorney General, Cynthia Coffman, and we're honored to have her here tonight. I do want to read her bio, though, before we bring her up. Sorry, it's a long one, but we're going to be a little brief. I know, but it's so good, so good. So Colorado Attorney General Cynthia Coffman serves as the state's 38th Attorney General and is the second woman to hold this office in the history of our state. Since being elected in November of 2014, General Coffman has focused on community outreach, consumer protection, and protecting public safety, and Colorado's sovereignty. That one should not be just overglossed there. Very important, our sovereignty. General Coffman began her tenure at the Colorado Department of Law in March of 2005 when she was appointed Chief Deputy Attorney General. She proudly served in this role for 10 years, acting as Chief of Staff and Chief Operating Officer for the largest law firm in the state of Colorado. While performing as Chief Deputy, Colorado Law Week recognized General Coffman's accomplishments by naming her the best public sector lawyer in September 2012. In 1997, General Coffman's first job in Denver was working for the Colorado General Assembly's Office of Legislative Counsel. She staffed the Senate Judiciary Committee and assisted with a study of the state's adult parole system. After a brief time in private practice, Coffman joined the senior management team at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. There, she served first as the agency's Director of Legal and Regulatory Affairs and later as its Deputy Executive Director. She gained extensive experience with environmental issues related to air and water quality, hazardous waste regulation, environmental health, and with health issues including disease control and epidemiology. In general, she's had a broad experience. She's also married to our U.S. Congressman, Mike Coffman, and so whether it be philanthropy or public service or in her current role, this family knows about sacrifice and about serving the people of Colorado. Help me welcome her to the front.